Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to getting really well informed. Today, we're jumping into the global legal consulting market. It's evolving fast. We've been looking at the global legal consulting market forecast, 2021-2033 Insights. That's from Cognitive Market Research. Our goal, to pull out the key insights, the really important stuff, and maybe uncover some trends you wouldn't expect. The big question driving us is, is the traditional legal world really becoming this dynamic consulting force? And where's it happening fastest?
It really is fascinating because, people often think of law as, well, slow to change. But this data, it tells a completely different story. We're seeing a huge shift in how legal advice is being delivered and consumed globally.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And to really get a handle on this, let's start with the big picture, the global numbers. So back in 2021, the market was already pulling in nearly $26 billion. Not small change.
Not at all.
But here's where it gets really interesting. It's projected to shoot up basically more than triple to almost $86 billion by 2033. That works out to a compound annual growth rate, CAGR, of 10.5%. Pretty solid.
Yeah, and that 10.5%, it's not just a blip. It's sustained growth, year after year compounding. It really suggests something deeper is going on, a fundamental shift. Businesses, individuals too, they seem to be looking for more proactive, strategic advice.
Like navigating regulations or cyber risks, M&A deals.
Exactly. Less about just reacting when there's a lawsuit, more about getting ahead of things.
That makes sense. So if that's the trend, where are we seeing this play out most strongly? Let's break it down region by region. Maybe start with North America.
Sounds good.
Okay, North America. In 2021, it was over $8.7 billion. The forecast is set to go to over $27.7 billion by 2033. That's an annual growth rate of just over 10%.
Right, a significant chunk of the global market.
And the U.S., as you probably guessed, makes up most of that. Projected to hit over $21.7 billion by 2033.
Yeah.
Its growth is just under 10% annually. But Canada actually caught my eye here.
Yes, Canada's numbers are quite striking in the report. While the U.S. market size is huge, Canada's growth rate is actually outpacing both the U.S. and Mexico. It's projected to hit over $5 billion by 2033.
And the CAGR.
Nearly 11.7%. That's noticeably higher than its neighbors.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it could be several things. Maybe specific industry booms, like tech needing more IP law help, or perhaps complex regulatory stuff around, say, clean energy initiatives. It definitely points to things being different depending on the specific country, even within a region.
Interesting. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic to Europe. Europe's market was valued at just over $7.1 billion in 2021, forecasted to reach over $22.1 billion by 2033. The annual growth rate there is just under 10%, so quite similar to North America overall.
Mm-hmm. And within Europe, we see pretty consistent growth across the big players. The UK, Germany, France, they're all heading towards being multi-billion-dollar markets by 2033.
Germany looks like the largest.
Yes, projected to hit over $4.2 billion, growing at about 9.8% annually. France is slightly higher in growth rate, over 10%. Italy even a bit more, at nearly 10.5%. It suggests, a mature market, but one that's still finding demand. Maybe EU cross-border rules, digital transformation challenges.
Right, and you mentioned some slightly higher growers, too.
Yeah, interestingly, Russia, Italy, which we mentioned, and Spain are showing TGRs over 10.9%, even hitting 11% for Russia. Perhaps faster evolving legal needs or specific industry things driving growth there.
Okay, so solid growth in Europe. But you hinted the real explosions happening elsewhere.
That's right. If you're looking for the absolute growth leader, you have to look at Asia Pacific. It pulled in over $6.6 billion in 2021, but it's projected to almost quadruple.
Quadruple, wow.
Yes, to nearly $24 billion by 2033. That gives it the highest regional KGR, almost 11.3%.
Incredible. So who's leading the charge within Asia Pacific?
Well, China is a huge part of that story. It's projected to reach over $7.6 billion by 2033, growing at nearly 11% a year. Japan's also showing strong growth, heading towards nearly $3.8 billion. But the absolute standout figure in the whole report is India.
India, okay, tell me about India's numbers.
They are genuinely staggering. Started at just over $1 billion in 2021. Projected to surge past $4.5 billion by 2033. And the CAGR, an astonishing 13.174%.
13.17%, that's
It
huge.
really is. To sustain over 13% growth annually signifies massive, rapid change. It's not just market size increasing, it suggests, rapid economic professionalization.
Hmm.
More companies needing external legal help for foreign investment, complex contracts, maybe supporting that big startup scene they
That's
have.
like a signal of the sheer speed of change there.
Exactly. The velocity is remarkable. And it's not just India. Look at Australia, nearly 11.8% CAGR, and Singapore, over 12% CAGR. Broad, really dynamic growth across the region.
Okay, this is painting a really clear picture. Let's quickly cover the other key regions to round things out. South America, the Middle East, and Africa. What are we seeing there?
Still seeing significant growth, definitely part of the global trend.
South America, for instance.
Yeah.
Just over $1.5 billion in 2021, projected to hit over $5.2 billion by 2033. That's an 11% CAGR.
Right. And Brazil, the biggest market there, but look at Argentina and Colombia.
What about them?
Both showing really strong momentum. Their CAGRs are over 11.6%.
So similar drivers, perhaps. Maturing economies, more investment.
Quite likely. Increased need for sophisticated legal advice as businesses grow and international ties strengthen.
Okay. And the Middle East?
Valued at nearly $700 million in 2021, projected to grow to over $2.5 billion by 2033. That's an annual growth rate of almost 11.5%.
And any standouts there?
The UAE, definitely. It has the highest regional growth rate, over 12.5% annually, expected to cross $500 million by 2033.
Wow. Why so high in the UAE?
Well, think about its position as a global business hub. Lots of foreign investment, diverse economic projects, big infrastructure plans, all need complex legal frameworks. Saudi Arabia and Turkey are also showing strong growth, both over 11%.
Got it. And finally, Africa.
Africa reached over $1.2 billion in 2021, forecasted to grow to nearly $4.3 billion by 2033. The CAGR there is over 10.7%.
Solid growth, too.
Yes. Nigeria and South Africa are the main players. Nigeria projected to hit $1.8 billion, South Africa slightly less at $1.78 billion. But South Africa actually has a slightly higher growth rate, around 11.2%.
Okay. So when you pull all of this together,
Well, if we connect it to the bigger picture, it just underscores how widespread this growth is. It's not just a few developed countries. We're seeing really high growth rates in emerging markets, places like the UAE, Argentina, Colombia, India, obviously. It points to significant shifts happening globally in business and legal environments.
so wrapping this up, what does all this data mean for you listening in and curious about these trends? The main takeaway is crystal clear. The global legal consulting market isn't just growing, it's booming everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
But, and this is key, the pace varies a lot, the scale is different region by region, country by country. It suggests there are lots of different reasons behind it, maybe specific industry demands, regulatory shifts, economies maturing. It's complex. Just to recap those really eye-popping growth rates again, India leading the charge at over 13% annually. Then you got the UAE at over 12.5%, Australia close to 11.8%, Canada almost 11.7%, and Argentina and Colombia both breaking 11.6%. Impressive numbers.
And seeing such consistent double-digit growth across so many diverse places, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What sort of fundamental shifts could this mean for the legal profession itself? How is the nature of legal work changing? It certainly points towards a bigger need for that specialized strategic advice, moving beyond just reacting to problems. Legal counsel is more of a proactive partner.
That's a great point to ponder. And that's all the time we have for this deep dive. Thanks so much for joining us as we explore the global legal consulting market. Our aim was to give you that shortcut to being well-informed, and hopefully these insights provide a clearer picture of this really dynamic sector.
Hope it was useful.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given these massive growth projections, what new legal challenges or maybe opportunities do you think might pop up in the next decade? And how might businesses, maybe even individuals like you, need to adapt to really make the most of this booming consulting area? Something to think about. We'll see you on the next deep dive.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. The world of modern business. It feels less like solid ground these days and more like shifting tectonic plates. Legal complexities used to be seen just as a hurdle, right? Something you had to deal with for compliance. But now, it's absolutely a strategic area, a battleground even. And regulations are changing so fast all over the world. Just keeping up feels like a huge challenge for companies. So today, we're taking a deep dive into the legal consulting market. Our mission is really to unpack what's driving its growth, what challenges exist, and maybe touch on some of the really interesting trends shaping its future.
That's right. And it's important to get that legal consulting isn't just this separate thing anymore. Something you call on when there's a problem. It's actually becoming deeply connected with the company's main strategy, right alongside things like digital transformation. And that shift makes understanding this market, how it works and where it's going, well, it makes it critical for pretty much every business out there, big or small.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're curious about how businesses navigate these, well, legal minefields,
Mhm.
or how technology is shaking up the legal world, or maybe you just want to be informed about a really vital, evolving industry, then this deep dive is definitely for you. Okay, let's unpack this then. What's really fueling the growth? Why is legal consulting booming right now?
Well, one of the biggest drivers, no doubt, is just how complex regulations and compliance rules are getting and how fast they change. Think about data privacy laws, environmental standards, employment rules, international trade. These aren't static. They're constantly shifting, often differently in different countries. So multinational companies or even just fast-growing startups, they often can't keep up internally. They really need consultants to help them navigate all that complexity, minimize risk, and make sure they're compliant everywhere they operate. It takes real specialized knowledge.
Right, that makes sense. So it's not just keeping compliant, but managing the sheer volume and change. What else are businesses looking for? Is it becoming more proactive?
Oh, absolutely. There's a definite rise in demand for, let's call it, sophisticated risk management and litigation support, too. Businesses face potential legal issues from so many angles today. Intellectual property, cybersecurity, that's a huge one, enforcing contracts, workplace disputes. The list goes on. And legal consultants are stepping in proactively now. They're helping companies spot potential problems before they blow up. They support litigation strategies, sure, but crucially, they help shield businesses from big financial hits and, damage to their reputation. It's much more about foresight now, not just reacting when something goes wrong.
And thinking about the practical side for businesses, beyond managing risk, how much is this driven by just wanting to handle day-to-day legal stuff more efficiently? Outsourcing, maybe?
A very significant amount, actually. We're seeing a sharp increase in companies strategically outsourcing legal tasks. They want to streamline how they operate and, honestly, cut down the high costs of having large in-house legal teams. So yeah, they're using consultants for all sorts of things, managing complex M&A deals, doing policy audits, handling mountains of compliance paperwork. The appeal is getting that flexible, specialized expertise when you need it, without the ongoing cost of full-time staff. It's like having top legal talent on tap.
Okay, so the demand is clearly there, driving growth, but it can't be all easy, right? What are the major hurdles in this market? What makes it tricky for businesses needing these services?
Well, a major restraint, and it's a big one, is still the cost. Traditional legal advice can be really expensive. The usual billing models, hourly rates, retainers, they can be just too much for many small and medium-sized businesses, SMEs. And because of that cost barrier, they often delay getting legal help, or they skip it altogether until a crisis hits.
Which, ironically, probably ends up costing them far more down the road.
Exactly. It almost always does. It's that classic penny-wise, pound-foolish scenario.
Yeah, I can see that. And does that cost issue tie into maybe just a lack of awareness? Especially for smaller companies, maybe they don't see the value up front.
Precisely. That's another key challenge. There's often limited awareness, particularly among SMEs and startups, about the real long-term value of good legal consulting. They might not fully appreciate how getting things right early on, like protecting their intellectual property properly or structuring contracts well from the start, can prevent huge legal headaches later. So without seeing that benefit, they miss out on support that could genuinely save them a lot of trouble and money in the long run.
Okay, so let's say a business does see the value and they decide they need help. How easy is it for them to actually find the right consultant?
That can be surprisingly difficult.
Yeah.
Because the legal consulting market is very fragmented, kind of all over the place. You've got everything from huge global law firms down to small boutique practices and even solo lawyers, a massive range. And that naturally leads to big differences in service quality, how they charge, what they specialize in. So for a business trying to choose, especially if they haven't done it before, it's tough to figure out who's trustworthy, who is cost-effective, and who really has the specific expertise they need.
It sounds like finding the right fit is crucial.
Absolutely. It's less about just finding a lawyer and more about finding the right strategic legal partner for your specific situation.
Okay, so despite those challenges, the market is growing and evolving. Let's shift focus now to the future. What are the exciting innovations? What trends are really reshaping things?
Well, one of the most game-changing trends is definitely the fast adoption of legal tech. Digital platforms, AI tools, we're talking about AI that can analyze contracts much faster than humans, really sophisticated tools for e-discovery. Finding key information in huge amounts of electronic data for lawsuits, even things like virtual legal assistants. And what's really interesting is that this tech isn't generally replacing lawyers, it's augmenting them. It's boosting their capabilities. It cuts down on the manual, tedious work, improves accuracy, and frees up legal professionals to focus on the higher level strategic thinking, complex negotiations, that kind of thing. Faster, often more affordable services for clients too.
That's a massive shift in how the work actually gets done. Are there bigger societal trends playing a role too? Things outside of pure tech?
Oh, definitely. A huge one is the rising demand for ESG advice. That's environmental, social, and governance. And related to that, corporate governance advisory. Stakeholders, investors, customers, employees, regulators, they're all paying much closer attention now to how businesses operate ethically, how sustainable they are. So companies are actively seeking legal consultants to help them navigate this, help with ESG reporting, sustainability audits, designing better governance structures. If you look at the bigger picture, it shows legal advice is moving beyond just ticking compliance boxes. It's getting integrated into a company's core values, its reputation, its long-term impact. And that's creating totally new opportunities for firms that have real expertise in ESG.
That's fascinating. It connects legal work right back to brand and values. And what about specialization? In such a complex world, are consultants getting more focused?
Yes, we're absolutely seeing a clear trend towards more industry-specific legal consulting. Think about sectors with really heavy regulation, like healthcare or fintech or cybersecurity. Businesses in these areas increasingly want advisors who don't just know the law in general, but who deeply understand their specific industry. They need someone who gets the unique regulatory environment, the technology involved, the day-to-day operational challenges. So there's a growing preference for that kind of tailored, sector-savvy advice over more generalized counsel.
Which really raises an important point for you, the listener. How does that kind of hyper-specialization actually benefit you as a client trying to navigate a really complex field?
Right. So we've covered a lot of ground. We've seen how this legal consulting market is being pushed and pulled by, well, increasing complexity, cost pressures, but also some really cutting-edge tech. It's definitely a space in motion. I think the key takeaway really is that legal consultants are changing. Their role is evolving. They're not just advisors you call when there's trouble anymore. They're becoming really essential strategic partners, helping companies grow, manage risk effectively. Their input is becoming fundamental to overall business success in this very fast-changing world we're in.
So let's leave our listeners with a final thought. As legal tech keeps advancing at this incredible pace and global regulations get even more tangled, how might the actual role of a legal consultant fundamentally change over, say, the next 5 or 10 years? And maybe more importantly, what does that mean for any business, whether it's huge or just starting out as it tries to chart its course for the future?